We're talking to Syed Khalil, and Syed is a senior manager. He works at a company called Publix, which is a very large food store chain in Florida. You can expand on this because I don't know of Publix outside of Florida. The main focus that Syed is going to be talking about is that of being a Scrum Master. Do you want to tell us more about Publix?
Sure. So let me explain a little bit further into that. So my name is Syed Khalil. I have been working, and as you mentioned previously, that you started off as an ad agency. My bachelor's is in marketing,
Huh?
and my MBA is in e-commerce, which is nothing related to what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I started off in marketing, and my vice president, after a year or so working there, asked me if I want to change my role, make myself a little better or something like that. So he introduced me to business analysis.
Okay.
So after that, I just went with it. Even though after 2, 3 years, I did my MBA, but I never thought of doing that in MIS or computer science or something like that. I just went with, okay, I'm going to do it in the field that I see is good. But I tried a couple of times, didn't get a job in like with the Walmart or the Home Depot and supply chain. I decided, okay, enough is enough. I was making good money in IT. I'll go back to IT. And that's how my IT career started. So in 2009, I graduated with my MBA. In December of 2010, I had a chance, sorry, November of 2010, I had a chance to do a Scrum Master training.
Mhm.
My brother in Austin, he called me and said, hey, our team is doing a Scrum Master training. And I have heard at that time what Scrum was, but I didn't know anything about it. So he's like, hey, we're doing a Scrum Master training. You want to come over and do the training with us? So I was like, yeah, let me do that. So I was in, where was I exactly? I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at that time. And I drove from there. It takes around 7 hours. And there, did the training, 3 day training. And then I took the test. And it's still on my certificate says I passed this test on the 1st of December of 2010. So then that's when I became a Scrum Master. And I had the educational background of it. I did not have any experience of it.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people have mentioned, it's easy to learn, but hard to master because I learned it. And then I was like, okay, how do I use it? And I struggled for some time, for say a year or so, how to actually apply Scrum Master into different companies that I work with. I have worked over the years with around 10 or 12 different companies, and all of them have been Fortune 100 companies. Before I go there, let me explain that the other subject that let me explain about Publix.
Uh-huh.
Publix has somewhere around 1,360 stores. They are in 8 different states. So
Okay.
they are in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Kentucky. So that's 8 different states. They have rules and regulations for all of them, and they have been doing great. I knew about Publix back in 1996, but I never joined them. Recently, I joined them a couple of years ago, and I found out that they have a team of almost 3,000 people working in Publix technology. It's a huge number compared. Mainly, if you think of Publix, you think of Publix, the store employees for all the produce, bakery, and all that other stuff, and the management. We do have a lot of Publix technology that work on the back end, create application, maintain application, things like that. So that's that part of it. Now I'm switching back to 2011. I'm going to start approaching how do you implement Agile as I mentioned, I work for a lot of Fortune 100 companies. Some of the examples, if you want to see, I am on LinkedIn. So if you want to see me on LinkedIn, I'll be more than willing to connect with you. So I have worked for British Petroleum, Shell, USAA, Baker Hughes, Amazon, Apple. I'm trying to work for Publix, and I think I'm missing one in there somewhere. But each company I work for, I work mainly in the development aspect of it. And I thought it would be safe that I'll go in, I'll teach them what the Scrum is, and they will be happy to adopt me. There's, yeah, this guy came in and showed us the Scrum, and we are so excited we will just jump on it right now.
Yeah.
It's never like that. It's always, there is some problem. Somewhere along the lines, people are like, why are we changing? We should be doing the business the same way we have been doing. So one of the companies I work for, they had stage gates. Okay. Stage gates are basically every time you do certain amount of things that you think to be done, you go in front of committee and show them what you've done. And then they will review your project and say, okay, yay or nay. Okay.
Right.
When they review it, they will go, okay, now that you have done this, you have to be, not only you have to do this application development or testing or whatever it might be, you have to do these 5 other things that's related to that gate. Okay. But I was called Agile project manager for them. And they were very much telling customers that we are using Agile, but they were following the stage gate methodology. Okay. So, but I went there, that was different. I went to Amazon. Okay. You will think Amazon is perfect on Agile. No, they were using so many aspects of Agile. That's where I learned what is safe, what is less, what is Scrum of Scrum. These are things that I learned at Amazon. And because they were not sure, they allowed each team to decide what they wanted. They would just tell them, okay, you want to do this? Sure, go ahead. They created an Agile advisory group. And that advisory group did 3 things. One is they trained people. For a Scrum Master, they did 1-day training. For a product owner, they did 1 day. And the development team, they did 2-day training. That was the one aspect. The second aspect was to look at Agile, or how the Agile was implemented in different teams, and certify if they are using Agile or not. Okay. So if you use out of the 4 or 5 different ceremonies and you have 3 artifacts, sure, you have your stamp that you're following Agile methodology. Okay. So so I was part of that, and we started doing things like that. So it was different. Now switching over to Apple. Apple was a totally different beast. Apple, I was a part of an Apple retail POS team, and they had methodology. They had the regular spiral. Okay. Basically, multiple waterfall releases every year. So I think it was around 4 waterfall releases every year. Instead of doing 1, they did 4. So it was basically like a spiral methodology. And they had Agile. We had to do stand-ups. We had to have user stories. But we wrote user stories during the 2 weeks we had for business analysis. Okay. So we did project kickoff, then business analysis, then design, then development, 6 weeks of development, 2 weeks of testing, and 2 weeks of deployment. If you look at it anyway, it's wonderful. But that was the culture. So what I'm trying to say is, if as a purist Scrum, I go in any company and I try to implement Scrum, within 2 months, I will be fired. Because if I am going through that mindset of, I am a purist, I don't believe in anything else, Scrum works everywhere, Scrum is perfect, I'm going to implement Scrum, that is not going to work anywhere. So this has been going on for some time. And when I came over here to Publix, I didn't implement Agile, or I didn't implement Scrum, 100% Scrum the first
Yeah.
day. I started off with talking to my champion, the guy who hired me. He's also a Scrum Master. He's been Scrum Master for a few years. I started talking to him and I told him, hey, I don't want to do a lot of things. I want to do minor changes, minor tweaks, and we're going to do a little bit, and we will push the team by little. If we do a whole lot of change, the whole team is going to resent me and nobody's going to like me, and we will never see it. So we started doing little things. I evaluated what it was, what was needed to be changed at a very high level, presented to him. So things like story pointing. Okay. So we started using the story pointing. We defined what is a story and started putting more information to it. Then we had the working image just did not say, okay, what we're going to do is we started defining the role in it. What is the role of a Scrum Master? What is the role of a developer? What is the role of a development lead? What do we expect from that person?
Mhm.
Okay. Things like that we started putting in right now. Now, at this point, I'm going to say it's been 2 years. It's actually coming to be 2 years in the next couple months. We are at a place where we think we are doing better than everybody else. We are not 100% Scrum. We are Scrum One. We are keeping some of the ceremonies of Scrum, but at the same time, we are doing a Kanban board because I wanted transparency from end to end for people to see what is created as new and what is getting done, deployment and done. So they can see end to end how the user story is flowing. The life cycle of the user story can be seen in one place. That took a longer time with you,
No.
but I just wanted to explain why I think culture of a company is more important when somebody wants to do a change as a Scrum Master.
One of the things that you are very clearly describing is why it's important to understand more than just one methodology. You have to have under your belt Scrum, Kanban, and it's helpful to understand traditional development also, because even in organizations that are describing themselves as agile organizations, you're looking at them and essentially what they're doing is they're taking part. And in almost every case, they're really doing their own form of whatever the balance of the different parts that they're putting together are. And that's something that between the different organizations, you were describing that Apple was following along with Spiral, but they still call themselves Agile.
Yes.
And other organizations like Amazon were pick and choose, and they assumed that you knew what the different things were that you were choosing from. And probably there was a mindset that you were making choices that aligned specifically to the work that you were doing, and you would adjust those as the work changed.
In Amazon, and now that we're doing it in Publix a little differently, we are coming with an agreement that under the same umbrella of a director,
Mhm.
all going to follow the same similar methodology. Okay. And we're going to define things in a such a way that if out of those 80 people, if we switched one person from one team to another team, that person can work pretty much the same way. And let me give an example. Pre-IPM.
Mhm.
Okay. So a column on there says, yeah, when you see that, people should be like, okay, this means this item belongs to the dev leads or test lead. If it comes out to be blocked, okay. So blocked has a column, but it also has a tag that says
Mhm.
dev block or test block. Okay. So we will put according to that way, any person we move somewhere here, there, perfectly fine. No big deal. Everybody will understand everything else. what we were planning to do 2 years ago, okay, or some time ago, it happened after 2 years. We are pretty much aligned with all the teams are aligned. There's, I think, around 7 different teams here, and all of them are aligned pretty much similar. We may have to explain a couple of things to each other, having a little uniqueness to each team. But at the same time, we can change developers, we can change business analysts or testers, and it will not much of a impact. We had IPM today. Monday or Tuesday, I'll have a pre-IPM. IPM stands for iteration planning meeting, and I do it every week. Okay. And in pre-IPM means that I'm going to look at all the user stories that I'm bringing to the team. I'm going to look from the point of view of a dev lead, test lead, architect, and possibly the delivery manager. Looking at what we are planning to deliver. Does it match to our goals for that iteration, or at least for that timing? So we do that. And then on Thursday, we'll have between an hour, 2 hours, and refine the stories, story point it, give it more depth, give it more understanding, explain to the team. So whoever in the team, out of 4 people, whoever picks up, they have an understanding how or what needs to be done in that story. So that way, I don't have to say that, oh, you are this guy, you have never worked on this story, so you cannot work on that. I never say that to my team. It's always whoever picks it up should be able to work on it. Create some silos in there. One aspect of, let's say, data work, okay, is one of my other senior dev. He has been working on it for years. He usually takes it, but we have decided, starting somewhere in November, we decided that, hey, we don't want silos. So let's say the senior guy, he is out for a month, or let's say 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever may happen. That work should never stop. Started making sure that all the other people will have some understanding and have something to do with, or they become more of a T-shaped employee instead of the I-shaped. Okay, just specialization in one is not gonna fly anymore. So we decided sometime in November that, hey, we're gonna change you guys to more of a T-shape. That way, you have some understanding. You can work on these things, and you can be a little bit dangerous with that, but you're not extremely good at it, kind of thing. So that's what we have been doing, and that's what today's session was about. Is 4 different stories from 4 different areas that we had, and each one will be assigned to the person who is not good in that area, or not an expert area.
Okay. So you use the term a little bit dangerous.
Yes, we do that in our meetings.
I have a question about the different ways that project tracking occurred at the different organizations. And the first question I have is around the use of electronic tools versus physical boards. You probably saw both, and they were used differently at different organizations. Can you describe the organizations that used physical boards? What was that like?
And this is the final one. And the reason I'm gonna say pointedly is because state of Louisiana, I worked for state of Louisiana for some time, and that was the only company that's not in Fortune 100. I don't want to say that they did not like technology. They preferred physical aspect of technology. They can see, touch, feel, and stuff like that. I was there for 3-4 months. One of the secretary or assistant secretary came to me of the department, came to me and said, hey, listen, I don't know what you guys doing. I want to see what you guys do. You guys are billing us, but I want to see. So I literally had to put a board together. They use ticketing system for everything. Even the user story was a ticketing. Okay. That way, the secretary of the department or the assistant secretary of the department would go up to the secretary and say, "Hey, this is what we have done. These are the 5 things we have done." So each person was in each row and different columns for how the story was moving. And we ran the projects that same way. That way they can see what's going on. And once the project was completed, we put that in another big paper that these are the things completed. Every month, the secretary of the whole department, the person who reported to the governor, we will take the whole panel of all the completed items and go to the secretary and say, these are things that we did this month. And we will explain to him what we did. And it has happened. The secretary took one of those papers and went to the governor and said, these are the things that we did. Okay. So that is one of the places that I saw the actual board. The other place that I worked for a small state of time, it was around 6 months. I worked for the state of Florida for the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. That's the place that we used a physical board. Okay. And they will come up every morning and they will move, the sticky will move from one place to another. Everywhere else, Amazon, Apple, Publix, Baker Hughes, what else? BP, Shell. We always use Jira or SharePoint or DevOps as an electronic board. It was easier to handle that. And it was easier to communicate using emails. These are things that we have completed, our creating reports. It was easier that way. Amazon, at times we wrote a lot, but the board was not really used. Okay. We were more of Jira people. We use Jira more often and report it through there. Okay. So those are the only, and so it's state environment that it seems to me that they wanted more of a physical board than anyway.
What about whiteboards? Did you do a lot of whiteboarding anywhere?
Oh, oh,
Okay.
Amazon, we did whiteboarding. We will be standing next to a window and we need something to write. We will just write on the window. Okay. We will be standing in our director's office and showing him something, and I'll borrow a pen from him or a marker from him and start writing on his door. Okay. So Amazon was the only company that we did a lot of whiteboard. Anytime you wanted to show something, anytime we wanted to show the process or progress or whatever it might be, you'll just put it on the board. Okay. Other companies, not as much.
One of the challenges that oftentimes exists at organizations is that they have a need to use a board, but they don't have access to one. And unfortunately, one of the challenges that poses is that whatever whiteboards that exist, oftentimes we end up erasing somebody else's stuff, or they try to hog the board by writing "do not erase." That's been enough of a challenge that at some companies I've worked with, they required that you always date your "do not erase" and then put the date for when you wrote that in there, because there would be a limitation for how long you could keep the board up with your stuff on it. The most elegant solution that I encountered to address that particular issue was actually at a US facility in San Mateo, California, where what they did was they dedicated a room that was pretty long, and every team got its own dedicated whiteboard along the length of both sides of the room. And what that helped to facilitate was that every team had its own whiteboard. If they needed a whiteboard, they owned a whiteboard. And the other part of it is if they needed more whiteboard space, it was up to them to figure out how to repurpose it and reuse it. So it eliminated a lot of the challenges that typically existed at organizations because of that limitation. Now, you mentioned that the two most commonly used tools, electronic tools, were Jira and then Azure DevOps.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Between those two tools, what tool was it? Much more Jira, or what
and
level of
so first, which became Azure DevOps, Jira, it is basically the same thing. There is not much of a betterness of one tool to another. They perform pretty much the same, or at least to my purview.
Yeah,
There are people who are like Jira administrator will disagree with me 100% on that.
I'm not going to push my positions, but I definitely have a preference between the two tools.
Okay.
But the reality is that those are the tools that you see the most heavily used at organizations, especially Jira. And part of the reason, of course, is that initial starting price.
Yeah.
It appears to be a very good value up front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll just leave it at that. Uh,
And
now, now, with regard to the different organizations that you worked with, how would you describe the difference in terms of the preparation for the rest of the team members between different companies you were at? What companies provided, let's say, the most training for the whole team, not just the Scrum Master, but everybody else, versus maybe not at all?
so in listing of like a ranking system,
Mhm.
I'm going to rank Publix as number one in
Okay.
providing
That's a
for the,
smart move.
yes, no, they seriously do. Even after a couple of years, actually, recently I asked my manager, hey, I've done the Kanban thing previously. I want to do this again. We are doing Kanban more now. I think it'll be more useful. He agreed. And he said, okay, I'll send you to a Kanban training and it will be in-house Kanban. Somebody is going to come and show us the Kanban. And I'm going to apply to do that in the next couple months.
Mhm.
Okay. 100%. It is I don't have to take time off. And I will be on clock and doing the training. Amazon after that did provide a lot of trainings, and they didn't ask us what training we are seeking, as long as you guys show them that we are taking some training. Then I will say USAA allowed us a lot of training. I don't remember taking any training under Apple. The state of Louisiana, yeah, but that's the state agency. Everybody has to go through certain amount of training every 6 months or every year.
Mhm.
But I'm not even counting that. BP, Shell, Baker Hughes, no, none of them actually provide us paid training. Okay. I'm not just talking about training as an agile training. I'm talking about all the mandatory training that you need to do to be successful. Sexual harassment training, or it's some timekeeping training, or any of that. Or you just, none of them that other than I can think of is Publix and Amazon. They're the only one who provides training.
And could you tell a difference in terms of the impact that had?
Yes, very much. Because everybody is, so right now in Publix, my whole team has gone through the Scrum. So one of the three trainings, Scrum Master training, product owner training, or the development team training. We all are on the same level to understand what is expected of us in this methodology.
Mhm.
See, the Agile methodology, whatever Agile frameworks, whatever sort of Agile we're using, doesn't matter. Every person on the team has an idea for what is their role they're playing.
Mhm.
So on the requirement side, okay, the team does not come in and say, hey, Syed, you are the Scrum Master or you the product owner. You should refine the story and give it to us. Okay. They don't talk about that way. They talk about, okay, what else can we put in here that can help us do the better job at this. Okay. And that mindset also helps us with each of these different user story, different work or different feature we are working on. Okay. So yeah, training is very important. And if anybody who is listening to this, I'm going to tell you about it. Training is extremely important. I don't care if your Scrum Master has 20 years of a Scrum Master training or a Scrum Master experience. You need to send that person for just for an review or a product owner review. Go learn a little bit more. There are new aspects of it that can be done. Scrum Master is supposed to be an agile coach to the team. Okay. Just 10 years ago or 14 years ago, when I took my Scrum Master training, I was never told that I have to be a coach to the team. I will help them. I will show them with the methodologies. I do all the other work with them, but I never actually was told that I'm going to be a coach to them. Okay. Now that the whole shifting has happened where I am coaching the team on what is supposed to happen, what is they're supposed to know, how we are supposed to do different items, or if we face a problem, how am I supposed to help them? Okay. So there is a little bit of shift, but all people need to have an agile training at minimum of at least know what it is.
I'm asking because in the early days, I would see that organizations oftentimes wouldn't give training to anybody except for the Scrum Master. And the challenge that oftentimes posed was people resist everything that they don't understand. So you have a whole team full of people that don't know how Scrum really operates. And you're now telling them that we're going to follow some pattern that they've never seen before. And all of a sudden, they're just going to go along with it.
Mhm.
Now, if you could address this, let me just preface this by giving what I think is a funny example. And acting as a coach at an organization where we were doing transformation into agile methods, one of the new Scrum Masters that came from within the organization, we had a meeting once a week where all of the Scrum Masters, we would all come together and discuss what's going on. And one of the Scrum Masters said, I tell the team things to do and they don't do it. And my response, of course, at that time was snarky. And I said, oh, really? I've never heard that before. But the reality was, no, of course they aren't listening. And the the thing about leading people is that oftentimes teams are like herding cats. They're just off in different directions. It's not like they're this unified group that comes together and marches forward. Now, I actually have had that experience, and I want to point that out just in two places. So I was working at Southwest Airlines, and they were giving me so little resistance that I had to stop and say, are you guys going to do this? And they said, we're going to do everything you tell us. And I was just like, okay. It was so unfamiliar with having anything like that, that I just, I was literally throwing objections for them to myself, things that I had experienced in the past that were objections. But so if you could give give an example of like w- what are the things that pop out to you in terms of the kind of resistance that you've received from either teams or individuals on teams?
Okay. So there's a few things. I'm going to give you the most recent one. We had a working agreement. We discussed in detail how each meeting or each ceremony is going to work and how we're going to do this. And maybe a week after that, one and the current discussion, you mentioned, I can't vote on this user story. I mean, why not? We discussed in our working agreement. What we did not discuss is this story is going to take me 6 weeks. And for 6 weeks, it will remain with me. It's a 2-pointer story. And I am going to be looking back to the senior director that this guy has been holding a story for a 2-pointer story for 6 weeks. Okay. So because of that, I'm going to vote 8. It's a 6-week story. It's going to take me 6 weeks to complete it because it was a lot of waiting for other teams to complete that. There were tickets that needs to be created. And we discussed that with everybody else. It's a 2-pointer story and it's going to remain 2-pointer story. So we had to literally calm him down and say, okay, you don't have to pick the story. Anybody else can. And he's, no, I like the story. I want to pick the story. I'm like, I cannot assign you the story. And it came into the end is, can you assign me this story? And since Kanban is a pull system, it's not a push system. I refused. I had to stand my ground and said, nope, not going to do this, buddy. This is not how this whole conversation is going to flow. And it was a contentious moment where we were almost on a standstill. Okay. Him saying that you need to assign me a story. I'm saying, no, I'm not going to assign you a story. Him saying that this 8-pointer, the team is saying 2-pointer. And I had to break up the fight and I'll tell the senior director that there's a lot of other works to be done. But in the end, we are not using the story points correctly right now. Okay. We are not calculating velocity. We are not using it to find out how much the team is working on. It's just an arbitrary number that people get stuck in and management gets stuck in. And they use this number for no reason.
Yeah.
How do I tell that to a manager? Okay. That is not possible.
Yeah.
But management, they want to know how long it's going to take to complete this project. Okay. And I used to say what project management, I've not seen a PMI, and I hope PMI people are not listening to this. All projects are done up to 90%. And after that, they're stuck at 90% for the rest of their life. Okay. So, and that's how I like to go with my projects. Okay. Yes, we will get to 90% after that is not going over. Okay.
I'm just going to throw out one example, and this is one that really is a composite of an experience that I had as a traditional project manager. So I was a traditional project manager for a while, and one of the things that I would see happen repeatedly is that I would go to a developer on a team, and after 1 week, I would get their input on how far along they were with a work package.
Uh-huh.
And almost always everybody reported the first week that they were at 50%. And then I would go back to the same developers who were working on the same work package that, 2 and 3 and 4 weeks later and ask them for progress updates. And so many times they still felt that they were at around 50%. And the challenge that I have come to understand is that when requirements are not sized small enough, estimating them is very difficult. So the challenge over and over that is one that's a difficult threshold to get past, but it's to get the teams to stay going through the requirements and breaking the size of the requirements down small enough that they actually understood what the work was. And a lot of times teams don't want to do that because another thing that I've heard so many times that it's just like a blur is that it takes more time to break down the work into small work than it does to do the work. Now, obviously, that's not true, but that tends to be a like a mantra that gets passed around to organizations somewhere in the ether. There's some underground group where they're passing this information, maybe in the dark web or something, but somehow it's getting around. And the crazy part of it is that it's not even regional. So I've worked all over the US and I've worked in Europe, and somehow the same kind of pushback happens in different states and different countries. But it doesn't they still have this sort of collective. Now, as far as some of the experiences that you've had where things really came together, can you describe some of those experiences where there was clearly the team members were grooving really well?
So I'm having that right now,
Okay.
where the team members is amazing and the team is doing great.
Mhm.
They're doing a very good job. As so, uh, we can start off 2 years ago. I came on to this team. We had two contractors, two developers, and the development lead. The 2 weeks after I came over here, my development lead left.
Mhm.
The product owner changed, and we had two contractors. One contractor quit after 3 months. So we were left with two original members and one contractor and a lot of knowledge gap. We got a new development lead. We had the new product owner. I was a Scrum Master. So it took us some time. Right. And around 6 months ago, I think it was around the same time that we were changing over from Scrum to Kanban, we
Mhm.
had a team meeting after the new guy joined, where we came up with an understanding that we're not going to use as much sarcasm because sarcasm is fun, but it can lead to problem within the team.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we decided not to do. The second thing we decided was like, we will help each other. And every month we will be looking at another person who's going to give us a training. Whoever gives more than two trainings will get a $5 or $10 gift card. Okay. So we made it that, hey, we want to give you the chance. If you train us something for a couple of times a month, we'll give you extra money on it or extra something benefit, or
Mhm.
I'll buy them coffee or I'll buy them lunch or something along those lines. Just arbitrary things that we will do for the team or do for that member. And but we are able to understand what the next person is going to ask a question about. So I have a guy named Alex. The kind of question I'll get from Alex, we have an idea what he's going to ask. Okay. And what Zachary is going to ask, we have an idea on that one as well. So we make sure when we create in our league meetings, we look at it and say, okay, Jack, let's put what Zachary is going to ask, what Alex is going to ask, what he is going to ask, what she is going to ask. Let's put all these together and come up with acceptance criteria. So we can make it better for the team. Previously, 6 user stories a year ago was it will take us 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Now it is, even though these are confusing stories, we are creating spikes here everywhere. We are creating spikes. We have no idea what we're doing. Let's create a spike. Okay, so what will happen when what is the positive outcome of this story? We'll take that and create another user story, and that will support the spike. And if the spike is done before in 2 weeks, or let's say it's done in 1 week, can that same person pick up the story and present to us, present to the team what is the outcome? And then can they implement the same thing? Okay. So we are creating multiple stories underneath the same one. Okay. But we are doing it at a very fast pace. And Everybody is in instinct right now. What is going on? I hope nothing breaks with that system right now. But this is going amazing. Okay. The other place that I see something amazing is Amazon.
Okay.
Okay. And let me explain this is what happened. I was given a guy named Charles. And Charles was doing a project. We created an end-to-end flow for him
Mhm.
for how a seller gets paid. Okay. And we asked Charles to and a couple of the people to sit down and give us an idea how long it's going to take. They came up with an idea of 2 weeks.
Mhm.
We gave it to Charles on a Thursday, noon, and it's okay, it's going to take him 2 weeks. Monday morning comes, Charles is saying, Syed, I'm done with the story. I'm done with the application,
Mhm.
the whole application. Found
Okay.
out that for the weekend, on Friday, he broke up with his girlfriend. So he had a lot of time. So he did nothing the whole weekend. Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Saturday night, Sunday, the whole time. He put in 48 hours. Okay. Completed the whole thing and gave it to me. And I'm like, now you want me to go to my product manager and tell him that we are done? I gave him an estimate of 3 weeks. What should I tell him now? He's going to tell me you don't know how to estimate? Okay. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I got done. I broke up with my girlfriend. I had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So that's one of the company that I have very fun story about them.
Actually, that's a whole lot more positive than I broke up with my girlfriend and I spent the weekend drinking, and now Monday morning I'm still hungover and I can't get work done.
Yeah. Yes,
For-
sir.
yeah. In terms of the, I'll say the mix or the demographics of the different people that you worked with, what would you say was the ratio of males to females?
I can count on one hand, even tell you the names of the female that I worked with as a developer.
Uh huh.
Okay. I can literally count it one hand. Okay. How many ladies I worked with in my 14, 15 years development time.
Hmm.
Okay. And they don't exceed the number five.
Okay. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
And I've worked, I'm going to tell you, I've worked with over 200 developers.
Uh huh.
Okay. So, but the few that I worked with, 4 or 5 people, ladies that I worked with,
Uh
they
huh.
were extremely intelligent. They were so intelligent and very hard work. I was just looking at this one. And that it kind of relates to what we're talking about is how do you succeed as a Scrum Master when you get hired? Let's say you get hired. Okay. Let's say Syed gets hired to a new company. How will Syed will be able to succeed, stay in there as a Scrum Master for the next 10 years? Okay. What should you be looking at? Or what should a new hire be looking at? Okay. So I have a small list
Mhm.
that person needs to do when they get hired is find a champion, a person who is willing to work with them to make sure that the agile or the framework they're implementing to the team is accepted by the team. Maybe the team manager, maybe the person's manager, maybe a senior manager, somebody with authority with the company needs to be needs that person needs to work with. Maybe even the agile coach for the company can come in. That gives you a little bit of an authority of what you can do. Okay.
Mhm.
That is very important. And I have found that in my recent company right now. I found one of my managers as a champion. And I discussed with him, even though I know what I'm going to implement, I still discuss with him to talk to him, talk over what are the points I'm not seeing. So one of the things that I talked to him and I said, hey, listen, I'm seeing all good. I'm not seeing all anything bad. Tell me what I'm not seeing. That's my question. Tell me what I'm not seeing. Okay. So he will tell me a few things and then will, oh, yes, I can correct that, or I can correct that, or I can implement it this way, or I can talk to this person differently. So that's another thing a person as a Scrum Master you need is that champion who is going to help you grow. Lastly, you need somebody outside the company. A person, you may not call him the coach, or you, for me, Charles, you're the person I talk to. Okay. I come up with problems and I say, okay, how do I solve this? And you give me an anecdote of this is what I have done a few years ago. Okay. You don't give me the answer, but you give me some pointers in how I can solve that. Man, that's one person anybody who is listening to this or anybody is thinking about this as a Scrum Master, you need somebody outside the company that you can talk to that person. You don't have to reveal the names. You don't have to reveal the application. You don't have to reveal what happened in the situation. Okay. You just have to get some answer to solve that problem. Because problems exist. If you have more than one person in a room, there will be conflict. And when you have that conflict, you need to solve the conflict. As a Scrum Master, you are a servant leader. Okay. You need to solve that conflict, or that you to solve the conflict. You need to have someone who can call on the phone. Like, hey, listen, Charles, can you help me here? I'm stuck here. I don't know what to do. Okay. Charles may say, hey, I had this similar kind of experience. Let me explain to you what I did. And that may jog your memory or may jog your experience. Okay, I can do something along those lines. So these are the few things that a person who is walking into the role of a Scrum Master is going to need. Okay. You have anything, answer?
No, I agree with that. I have a question about empowerment. So at different organizations, have you seen where empowerment has been given versus where maybe they talked to it, but they didn't actually walk the walk?
When I worked for the state of Louisiana, the director I worked for, he told me something that I use that very often nowadays. Previously, I did, but this is what I told my team. Ask for forgiveness. Do not ask for permission.
Okay.
Okay. So if they want to do something, I want them to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And if there's something happens or something wrong happens, something really terrible happened, point all fingers to side and say, he told me to do it. Let me handle it. Okay. Because I want them to take initiative and do anything. It's like in Agile, we say fail and fail fast.
Uh-huh.
I want them to experience things, fail fast, and learn something from it. So that's why I always use this word. If you ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission. Because the minute I ask for permission is like, I want approval from Charles, or I want approval from my delivery manager saying what I think is a good idea. Okay, should I implement it or not? And then it becomes in his thought, should he give a permission or not? Maybe it's going to cost him money. Maybe it will cost him his job, or maybe he will no longer be allowed to have be a manager, or whatever it might be. He's going to start thinking in all those directions. Okay, I don't want my team to think like that. I want my team to have a free thought, run with it. If they come up to a problem, I'm always there to help them.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to convey that. And I want to throw one thing out, and that is one organization that I worked with to implement organizational transformation for Agile. They wanted to see all of the training first. And one of the things they did when they saw all of the training was they wanted that the teams and team members were empowered. They wanted that removed. So you can imagine self-organizing was another one that had to be taken out.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they can't be self-organizing or empowered, and you want this to be, an effective agile transformation. Okay, and they were doing not because of any kind of good feelings about like the other positive impacts that you get from embracing agile. They were thinking about it purely from the point of, will this make us more money? Okay, that pure and simple. That's the only concern that they had.
So self-organizing. So
Yeah,
when I took this team, I was told that in my sprint planning, we were doing sprint. I'd have to
yeah,
assign the stories to each of the developers.
yeah.
I told my managers, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, no, you have to. This is Publix rules. That's why I asked him, why are we doing this? And Agile, and he was a Scrum Master before. This is how we have run. So I started beginning the first 3 months. I will assign stories to everybody. Okay. According to did allocation, I looked at allocation, who was going off, who's not having time, or who has time, his wife is sick or whatever. So I did all the allocations, did everything else. 3 months after that, I stopped doing allocation. Okay. I got called out for it, and I'm like, it's not useful. Okay. So it's, yeah, you need to do allocation. So I used to do it every other sprint.
Mhm,
What I stopped doing was assigning story to my Publix employees, the developers. I told them, pick what you want.
mhm,
So now that we switched from Scrum to Kanban, I don't have to assign stories to anybody. I haven't done that in almost a year and a half now. So the developers, even though my manager said we have to assign stories, okay, now they are doing a self-organization. Okay. And it took us that year and a half to get there,
mhm,
but still, it took us some time. But now that we are self-organizing, it is helpful. Like I allowed them the whole bandwidth of these are the 15 stories and ready for development. You choose whatever you want. I'm not going to assign you.
mhm.
Okay. So anyway, that's when I was thinking about self-organization. I thought I said that.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it's better once you get to the point where the teams are self-organizing, because that now they feel they're not just being given work to do. Here it is, go do it. They're selecting themselves, and when they select it themselves, they're more bought in.
Yep.
Work, yeah. And as a whole, they also feel better about themselves as an employee at the company because, again, they're not just an order taker. The inputs that you've given have been awesome. And before we
So
wrap this up,
it's
okay, thank you. So this has been really great. We'll have to talk again.